Welcome to Agents Growth Academy. I am your headmaster, Jim Schubert. I hope you are ready to grow big or go home. I've got the man, the myth, the legend, Sean Kirby with me today. Really excited to talk about what he said he thought this would be if it were a masterclass. He said, building the airplane while it's in the air. So stay tuned for that. Before I introduce Sean, I want to talk a little bit about a couple things that help us manage everything that's going on crazy. Like we're trying to build the airplane while it's in the air, running our agency. Number one is Marble Box. Number two is APA Policy. Marble Box is our virtual insurance processing team. And we just added our second Marble Box person to help us do all the stuff that doesn't add value to the client experience. So think about, agency build transactions and downloading policy information and all kinds of stuff that just takes up time, but that we don't want to pay our licensed value adding people who are trying to add that value to the client experience. So marblebox.com, check them out. And then ePay Policy, they are the simplest solution for agencies to collect premium with credit card and ACH. And that is something that right now they're actually running a special. So this episode comes out probably in a week or two and they'll still be running it. It's basically 4 months free of using ePay policy to collect those payments, and they give you $100 if you sign up. So really no reason to not test drive them right now. We've cut our time frame from collecting premium from our clients from 7 days down to less than 24 hours. So it's made a huge difference for us. Put a link in the show notes specifically for them, ePay Policy. Let's get to Sean Kirby, though, the handsome man on your screen. We were introduced by a fellow guest on the podcast, Derek Hayden. Sean is a husband and father first. He's an entrepreneur second, but boy, is he an entrepreneur. He was thrown into this industry in his early 20s with a sink or swim situation. Looking forward to hearing about that. From that, he found his true passion with people, growth, and connection. He started and maintains 3 separate podcasts, all in the hopes to grow his network and learn from the best in each industry. While he runs their independent agency, their goal is to build people and businesses around those people. 19 entities and counting. That's unbelievable. He was a contestant on David Carruthers' The Protégé Season 2. He was PIA's Young Agent of the Year 2022. He's been 20 under 40 in his local area. And in true grow big or go home fashion, Sean is growing and learning every day. Welcome to Agents Growth Academy. Sean, what's going on, my man?
I'm good, Jim. Thanks for that introduction. We've done that so long ago, I forgot what I wrote down. So I made myself sound much more impressive than I really am.
Was it a good ego boost for you?
Yeah, if I said it myself, most of it's true.
Most of it. Well, we'll find out what's true and what's fabricated here in just a second. But I really appreciate you. I know you said that this episode, if it were a masterclass, would be called "Building the Airplane While It's in the Air." And today is no different because literally like half an hour before you and I were supposed to record, I get an email from you that says, dude, the internet in our entire county just went out, and I'm really hoping we can still record. And you made it happen. For those who are watching this, you'll notice that there's a garage door behind Sean.
Yeah. Sometimes you just got to make it work. It's called bootstrapping, right? Bootstrapping, Jim.
Do what you got to do, man. You do what you got to do. All right, so I got lots of questions, but I want to hear first. Tell me what you mean by building the airplane while it's in the air. What was there like a pivotal moment or an epiphany that you had when you realized, oh my God, that's what we're doing right now?
That's a great question. To be honest, you don't know you're building it until you're halfway there. You don't want to end up in a fiery crash. I think that's the most important thing. So you've always got that fear of failure in your belly. So a lot of the time it feels like you're bootstrapping just to survive. So obviously we bought our agency with not a lot of PNC experience. So everything was a learning lesson, whether it was a policy change, a billing issue, a misplaced policy, a cancellation notice, a termination notice. Everything for the last 5 years has been learned on the job. So,
Wow.
yeah, I'm still building it in the air, and we're still figuring it out today.
That's awesome. So what were you doing before that? You said you bought it and you didn't have the experience in the PNC side. What were you doing before that?
I was in college. I'm young, so we bought our agency 5 years ago. I would have been 22, straight out of
Jeez.
school.
Wow.
My dad worked in the life insurance industry, company side, back all the way from the 80s to the early aughts. Retired as president and CEO of two $10 billion insurance companies
Wow.
in 2004. So he came home and wanted to kind of figure out where he fits into the real world,
Yeah.
be his own boss. So he started a financial practice, and he's always been an investor. So he invests in kind of different business entities, and one of those that he wrote down in 2004 was a property casualty insurance agency as a lead form for financial. And in 2017, 13 years later, he had the opportunity to finally, purchase a book of business.
Yeah.
I was 22, and he got me licensed and said, "Here's your seat on the bus. Figure it out."
That's awesome. Wow. Yeah. Fly the airplane, son.
Exactly. So it's been, trial by fire the whole time. I felt for the first, maybe year and a half, I was mostly the customer representative, just
Yeah.
trying to figure it out, sell it when you can, and then figuring out how to, maximize those relationships as I got older and I started to
Yeah.
understand the business.
Well, and so 5 years in now, you've obviously achieved a lot. I mean, we talk about being on the Protege, PIA Young Agent of the Year, 20 under 40, all these things. What's the secret to your success? How have you been able to be so successful in such a short period of time?
I would say I try things others don't, or won't.
Okay.
It's like I told you earlier, we're a Main Street agency, town of less than 5,000 people.
Wow.
So it doesn't take much to stand out in an old crowd.
Yeah.
So just doing things that other people have never even thought to do and putting yourselves in uncomfortable situations. I haven't made a lot of money. Um, I hope to someday, but at this point, I feel like I've really just laid the groundwork for, put myself in, the right rooms.
Are you having fun?
I finally am. And I think that
Because that's
the
really
thing
what
is,
matters.
yeah, I remember sitting down with my now wife when we were first dating, and she said, "Do you like what you do?" And I said, "No." I mean, insurance is not a glamorous industry, especially like I didn't have friends within it, and I
Yeah.
didn't have coworkers.
Yeah.
I was my own entity, taking care of business every single day to feed into the machine that we have.
Yeah.
So it took me going outside of my comfort zone, finding new people, mentorship podcasts, and all the other things to,
Mm.
kind of expand myself because I wanted to, not because, well, I kind of had to.
Yeah. Well, now speaking of podcasts, you have 3 separate podcasts. Is that still correct?
Yes. So I figured out what I wrote down for my third podcast originally. So technically there's 4. So
Okay. Wow.
I have my local niche podcast, which is the Performance Group podcast, which was just kind of how I met my local community originally, which
Okay.
is now transitioning 2023 to Performance University, very similar to Agents Growth Academy.
Awesome.
Um, I will not be the headmaster, but I will be a professor.
You're going to be the provost?
Yeah, exactly.
The
So,
dean?
so we're transitioning that just for the sheer fact that the local community. It's not a. I'm not out of people, but it's not a very big community at
Sure.
5,000 people. So
Yeah.
to expand our network and to expand, one of our number one values is education for our clients
Mm.
and in our community. So to
Yep.
turn it into Performance University just made sense.
Yeah.
And then I had the YPIA podcast of Indiana, which is the Young Agents Committee for the PIA. We have
Yep.
our own podcast. And then we had the Blue Collar Blueprint podcast, would have been the third one that I had started during the Protege, which
Okay.
was my niche-based podcast for my, that target market I was going after doing that and still go
Yeah.
after today. And then my last one, like I told you, is the
Oh.
Who's Your Daddies, which is my dad's based podcast, which is Indiana dads talking dad stuff. dudes and dads, which will start back up hopefully in 2023.
And I presume it's spelled like Hoosiers, like Indiana
Yeah.
Hoosiers. That's
Yeah.
phenomenal. It's brilliant. It's brilliant.
Marketing.
Can I go ahead and request a T-shirt or some kind of swag that said "Who's your daddy"? That'd be phenomenal.
What I want to get into is like those. They've got these. What do they call them? Diaper bags.
Yo, yeah.
So get into like branded stuff. Who's your daddy branded stuff? Because dads don't get their own stuff. Only the moms get,
Nope.
diaper bags and everything else.
Yep.
So if we made it dad based, I think it would be a good market.
It's phenomenal. I love it, man. Tell me a little bit about the blue collar blueprint. I was curious about that because even Derek mentioned that to me as something that stood out to him that was really clever, creative. Tell us about that. What is it and how has it helped you?
Yeah, absolutely. So the blue collar blueprint was truly, if anyone's seen The Protege by David Carruthers, season 1 or season 2, the whole thing that you create is a business plan, and whoever has the best business plan, with the challenges he creates, will get to the finals, and then you go through production, and then you win the show. I did not.
Yep.
However, I built my business plan, and the second one was, once you have your target market, who or what's your digital footprint going to be? And so the blue collar blueprint, because that's kind of the target class of business I was in.
Okay.
And we are helping, along the way, we are the blueprint. And it all sounded perfect. The logo came out right. It was just, it was great. So we have the bluecollarblueprint.com, Blue Collar Blueprint podcast. So we invite, blue collar business owners. We've got a good tie to the Builders Association here in Indiana now. So it's been fun. It's been great. And with our ancillary services between the tax accounting side of our business and insurance, we're able to talk at a much higher level with those guys.
Wow, that's brilliant. And what something you said before, you talk about like one of your core values is education, right? And I think that's such a huge piece of it. I would imagine that through the blue collar blueprint, you're able to help educate other blue collar workers by having them on the podcast. I'm just guessing. Is that accurate? Is that part of the?
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of those guys, they see themselves as competitors when they're truly, similar to where we are today. You are not my competitor, but we're in the same industry.
Right.
Giving them an outlet to find commonalities.
Yeah.
And use each other, whether it's referral sources or just from a mentorship standpoint. It's, again, go back to connection, which is all podcasts are and conversation is. It allows me to have really cool conversations with guys who are doing things that I could only dream about.
Yeah. And that's you and I even talked about that off mic before, that just the whole thing that I never expected from having a podcast. And this has been going on for a year now. It's just the amount of relationships that I've built. We can talk about like connections and networking, but really it's about building relationships. And especially if you're in a small community, that's it. It's such a wonderful outlet, and to be able to build those relationships. And I have lifelong friends now that I have made in the span of a year that I never would have made this many friends and had so many good conversations with folks if it wasn't for the podcast.
Yeah, it's been a great opportunity to find like-minded people, and it's hard when there's only 5,000, so it expands that much faster.
All right, so I gotta ask you, man, 19 entities and counting. What is that all about? How does that happen in the span of 5 years? Did you start this when you were 5, like as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, no. So the 19 is that's pretty much the conglomerate my dad's built over the last 17 years he's been in business, and it all stems off of being a tax guy, right?
Yeah.
The thing about people who are in the tax business is there's two types. There's the guy who pays their taxes, which is important, and the person who reinvests to avoid taxes. They say the average millionaire has 7 streams of income. So 19's got to be better than that, right? So, they're for the most part, things are related. So you've got finance, insurance, tax, accounting, right? Those are like the main pillars of what we do.
Yeah.
But then there's, the side investments, the fun things, the real estate that we're in now. My wife and I I'll show you quickly. So my wife so there's 150 rentable moving totes behind me. So my wife, who
Oh
is
my
not,
gosh.
she's not an entrepreneur by trade, but this last year we decided to, jump in, buy some totes, and we rent these to individuals who are moving from, house to house. And
Wow.
it's a cheaper solution and a more eco-friendly solution than
Oh yeah.
using cardboard boxes.
Yep.
So it's allowed me to make connections with realtors and mortgage brokers and all the other things, while all the last I'm just trying to help the consumer, right? Get from
Yeah.
point A to point B with hopefully a better solution, an easier solution. It's called Easy Totes.
I love it, man. That's brilliant. And you're solving a problem for people, right? Because those boxes, number one, it's really frustrating. I've moved several times in my life and like things get damaged in a cardboard box because it's not that strong. But those
Yeah.
totes, I've used those before. Those are phenomenal and they don't break. You can jump on
Yeah.
them, right? How did
Yeah.
you
You
think of
can do
that?
anything. I'm pretty sure my wife was on Instagram one night and it was on one of the coasts and like an influencer posted it. And I did some fast maths. We stayed up till 1:30 a.m. and I ordered them before we went to bed.
That is phenomenal. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. That's brilliant, man.
Building the airplane while you're in the air, man. It's one of those things that I've learned from my dad, and I to maybe a fault because I regret not being hyper focused on insurance all the time.
Yeah.
But it makes me better at point of sale. I feel like with a business owner, if you are one.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting that you mentioned that because sometimes I feel slightly guilty for my own staff. I mean, we've got about 40, 50 people in our agency, and to do this, it takes a little time. I mean, thank goodness I have a podcast production company that all I have to do is show up and record. They take care of the rest, but still, it does take a little time away from the business. But I agree. I feel like it's helped me in so many ways to become better at what I do. And I haven't written a lick of insurance in like 8-9 years now because I took the agency over from my father and it was big enough. It was, a lot to wrap my arms around. So the leadership perspective, I've learned so much from other great industry leaders like yourself who are teaching me how to be better at what I do in my agency. Man, it's phenomenal. I'm curious because you've mentioned your dad a couple times. And I took, like I said, I took over the agency from my father. I think it's a wonderful thing. It's a beautiful thing, especially if you guys aren't like tearing each other's heads off, that you can work together in some capacity. And I have to imagine that you've learned a lot of things from your dad. If you had to pinpoint the greatest lesson that your dad has ever taught you from whether it's in business or from growing up, what do you think it would be? I'm putting you on the spot. We didn't talk about this beforehand.
Yeah. No. I think the best thing my dad ever did to me, and I cussed him out for 2.5 years in my head, was when he handed the agency over and he said, "Good luck." Because my office was next to his, and he never wanted somebody to bypass mine to go to his to talk about insurance. So I hated it. I
Yeah.
really, truly didn't enjoy it. I didn't know what to enjoy about it at the time.
Yeah.
But I learned how to stand on my own 2 feet really quickly, where I think some kids get coddled, and that's not to their own. I mean, like parents, a lot of the time, they don't want to see their kids in tough situations.
Yeah.
I lost big clients when I started. I won some of those back over time. I've gotten my own big clients. I do not take a paycheck. I only get paid 1099 commission, so my dad's not allowed to be my boss. That's an internal thing. That's an ego play, I'm sure. But learning to pay your own way, I think, would be the biggest thing that he's taught me is, this is actually probably the number one thing he says. And he says this to me all the time. He said, if you don't wake up every single morning thinking about how to grow your business, nobody else will.
Oh, man, that is golden. Say
And
that
it's
one more
true.
time.
If you don't wake up every single day thinking about how you're going to grow your business, nobody else will.
Wow. Yeah. That's beautiful. And I think there's probably a lot of people listening that hopefully that just took y'all's breath away because it did for me. Yeah, that's awesome, man. I love it. I was
Yeah.
thinking there was a quote that I saw earlier today. It made me think of kind of what you were saying. I think it was Nelson Mandela said something about like, I don't fail, I just learn. And it sounds like that's what your dad essentially was doing for you. Like, good luck. Here you go.
Yeah, it
Truly
sucked.
building
I
the
was
airplane
mad.
while it's in the air. Now I see why you chose that.
Yeah, yeah. I'm thankful for it now, because I've got my own kids.
Yeah.
So as much as I want to coddle them and make sure they're perfect, it's okay to fall down and figure out how to stand back up.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, man. You ready for the rapid fire round?
I think so. I think I remember them, but I have good answers, I think.
Okay. Oh, good. Okay. I'm going to hold you to it then. First question is, what's one piece of technology or software that you can't live without?
So I'm a cheat and say two things. So truly my calendar. Um, I am a high school wrestling coach. I have, like we talked about, too many podcasts. Um, I overextend myself quickly. So
Yeah.
if I don't have my calendar dialed
Mm,
in buzzing on my watch to tell me what I have in the next 10 minutes, I'm I'm lost. I
yeah.
am lost.
Yeah.
So I'm super thankful for that. And then the other thing is actually something David had a guy on about called Yesware. And Yesware, I'm sure there's other things like it. It's a attachment to your Gmail or Outlook
Yeah.
that allows you to know when somebody opens your email.
Oh, like read receipt.
Not like a red receipt. So it's its own independent app. So it will tell you if they like open it more than once or if they open
Oh,
it three times. So the nice thing is if I need to get back to a client and they go back and they read my email and I haven't emailed them yet, I can go quickly and email them and say, hey, thinking about you, just want to let you know we're waiting on X, Y, and Z. That way I'm like reading their mind.
wow.
It's I now that I have it, it's kind of like I was told this before you buy an Apple Watch. If you've never had one, you don't need one, but if you get one, you'll never not have one. That's how I
Yeah.
feel about Yesware. Is like
Yeah.
now that I had it, I couldn't not operate with it because it keeps me honest to my clients, which is important and hard when I'm bouncing from thing to thing all the time.
Sure.
And then two, from a prospecting standpoint, it makes it a lot easier to make that first phone call. Kind of like Loom, if somebody watches your video, you know it, so
Yeah.
you're reading their mind, which is
Yeah.
important.
That's beautiful. I've never heard of that before, and I can't wait to go check that out. So it's
19 bucks a month. It's cheap.
Yesware, $19.
Yep.
Wow, that's awesome, man. With your calendar, do you use anything like Calendly or anything like that to help you get stuff scheduled so that you're not having to go back and forth? Or
Yeah. Yep.
yeah,
So I use Calendly. I remember the first time I had a buddy that was running a Chick-fil-A. And he sent me, I was 23. He sent me a Calendly link to get coffee with him. And I was like, that's crazy. How can you be that busy? And then I got that busy. And so I have like specialty built out ones. We have an onboarding one for new clients. I have a blue collar blueprint assessment one, which asks specialty questions. I
ah,
have a consulting one for a BS consulting practice that I told myself I'd start.
yeah.
So it charges money if somebody actually wanted to book time with me, but I'm too scared to send it to somebody. But so like it narrows it down. I took my cell phone number off all my business cards and my email, and I just put a QR code to my 15-minute discovery call.
Oh wow, that
Yeah,
okay. I've never heard of anybody doing that before. That's ballsy.
yeah. Well, and at that point, you're either going to call me or you're going to book a call, and I respect your time, you respect mine, and hopefully we can make it work.
Yeah, that's awesome. Wow. Okay, those are two really good ones, and yeah, you're allowed to cheat on that one and have two. What's one book you're reading right now, or that you've read recently that you want to recommend to folks?
So I am reading a book by Alex Hermosi, different kind of business. He's not in the insurance business, and it's called The $100 Million Offer. And his whole premise, for the most part, is built around building an offer so good that nobody can say no,
Hmm.
right? So the performance group or the blue collar blueprint is tax, accounting, insurance, risk management, all in one house with specialized advice just for people like you. Making an
Yep.
offer so good that why would anybody ever say no to that?
Yeah.
And have an accountant over here, a tax guy over here, a
Yeah.
bookkeeper here, and have everybody spread out when you can just come one place for advice and we have it all.
Wow. That's awesome. Okay.
I don't know. I'm doing my best.
Yeah, man. Listen, I've never heard of that one before, but I love that. The $100 million offer.
Yeah.
What's one piece of advice you would give to your younger self? We talked about advice your dad gave you. What about you? What have you learned that you would give to your younger self?
Try harder. I think the earlier me was scared to try hard and then fail. And it was easier to try a little and fail.
Yeah.
Where it's okay to put 100% into everything and lose. I just lost a protege, and I literally gave it everything I had. And I talked a big game the whole time. I was trying to be like a heel on the show for just good looks on TV. And, it really hurt my feelings that I lost. But, I mean, like, there's only one person to blame. And, that's second place, man. Sometimes it hurts. You nut up and go do it again.
Yeah. But in theory, you learned something from it.
Yeah. Try hard.
Yeah.
Just
right.
Try hard.
Try harder. Love it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. If you were given the choice, especially because you said it's snowing currently and you're supposed to get a couple inches tonight up there in Indiana. Good luck with that. If you tonight had the option between eating a hot bowl of soup or having hot chocolate and gourmet marshmallows, what would you choose?
Probably soup.
Okay.
Truly. Well, actually, I take this back. Do you think chili is soup? Or is chili?
I've had more people ask me that recently. Sure, I could get behind that.
All right, if chili's soup, then I'm all in on chili. I'm all in on chili.
What if it's not chili?
We're born and raised on chili.
Well, what if it's not chili? What's your next favorite soup?
My wife makes this taco soup almost.
Ooh.
It's a shredded chicken. Salsa chicken. That's what she calls it. Salsa chicken. So she just covers it in salsa, black beans, and everything else. And it's served in a bowl, but you eat it with mostly chips. So I don't know at what point, from a density standpoint, that transitions from soup to chip dip.
That's awesome. Depends how hot you get it and how much it melts.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, I'll get in touch with you after the show to get your address and everything, but I'm gonna send you a soup package from our friends at Spoonful of Comfort. We give it to our guests. We've given it to our staff at the agency, and everybody loves it. There's some nice surprises in there too. I know they don't have chili. I think they have something similar to what you're talking about with the chicken and salsa. So
perfect.
We'll get that out to you, man. You and your family will love that, I know. Sean, what's one final piece of advice or actionable step that you could leave our audience with today?
I would say, and I thought about this, I would say do something no one else is. Whether that's somebody in your community, a competitor, it doesn't matter. Just try something new and do something that no one else is. And if it doesn't work, that's okay. You'll fail forward always.
Yeah.
Always fail forward.
And I'm hearing a theme from you too. It's just do it. Even if you fail, put it out there. You may have to try 19, 20 different things to see what ends up working. I have to imagine that there's not a lot of other podcasts that are being done locally in your town. Am I right?
No, I'm doing 4 more than anybody else does. So
okay, so that's definitely different than what most other people are doing. So that's awesome.
It's a different angle, but it's great.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't trade it for anything, and it's exhausting all at the same time.
I love it. I love it, man. Sean, it's been a pleasure having you on today. If people want to get more Sean Kirby in their lives, where should they go?
Well, if it's 2023, I'd tell you go to our YouTube page, Performance University. But I'm working that out. We'll see how that goes. If it goes poorly, just remember, I'll try harder. Otherwise, check me out on LinkedIn, Sean Sean, Kirby, and then you guys can find me on Facebook. Doesn't really matter. I'm available anywhere and everywhere.
Awesome, man. Sean, you stick around for 1 second for me afterwards, but thank you so much for being on the show today, man. It really means a lot.
All right, I had a blast. Thanks, Jim.
Absolutely. Everybody else, grow big or go home. See ya.